Good afternoon, everyone. Today is the very first ever review of a pay-per-view on this channel. We're going to be reviewing the 2026 Elimination Chamber pay-per-view that happened on Saturday, last night. A lot of highlights from the show, surprisingly. I didn't go into it with much expectations to begin with, but it is nice to see that they at least pulled off something. We're going to get into it as we go along, but obviously there's not a lot of people on the internet right now that are happy about the surprise, but we'll get into that in just a little bit. I'd like to start with the women's Elimination Chamber match. Well, the obvious winner came out of this. Rhea was the obvious winner. While we had a lot of good spots, Tiffany getting smashed into the pod, Raquel with the double pin, which made her look incredible. We knew that this was going to be the result. We knew that it was going to be Jade versus Rhea at WrestleMania. That was the match they were going with, and it was kind of writing on the wall, especially when on SmackDown last Friday, they gave the tag team championships to the irresistible forces of Lash Legend and Nia Jax. So that's kind of one of the bigger reasons why, towards the end of that, you kind of just had to assume that they were going to give the titles to them and split up Rio for WrestleMania season. Now, that's not to say that they won't have some kind of camaraderie throughout as she builds towards Jade Cargill's match. There's also a chance that they actually somehow want to add Io to this. Rhea's already got stuff going on with Jade, and they don't really have any plans for Io yet. So if they turn around and go, hey, we want to somehow add Io to this, I'm not mad depending on the route that they go with. So it'll be really interesting to figure out exactly where they go post this show. A couple other highlights throughout the match, I would say, are the smashing through the walls. I noticed that throughout both of the matches, the men's and the women's, that they decided to go through both sides of the pod when the second side looks like they kind of had the door halfway open. So it looked like they went through the second one, but sometimes it didn't look that way based on the camera. Yeah, honestly, but at the end of the day, with the right build, I honestly think that this match was the better match to go with, and it's unfortunate for the other women in the match that a lot of them had a really good showing, and I thought Kiana James especially had a very good showing, eliminating Alexa Bliss relatively early into the match. Was not seeing that coming right off the bat, but it is a nice change to see that they decided to go with a younger talent for at least a good chunk of the match before obviously giving it to the main person who was going to win the match at the end of the day. Yeah, yeah, that would be the first one. Next, we had up AJ and Becky for the Women's Intercontinental Championship. Now, this one, you knew there was going to be some kind of shenanigans in some way because Jessica Carr was the referee. For Becky, that is obviously a big red flag for her, and she doesn't want to have Jessica anywhere near her matches at all. Could not want her anywhere close to her. Get her away from her title, and that's the way she wants it to stay. But I think it was interesting to have AJ kick out of some relatively big maneuvers throughout the match and build that crescendo, almost that climax to what we got at the end, where Jessica got in the way and was like, no, that turnbuckle, you're not going to hit that a second time, and she was out for the first one, where she just essentially went out and said no and stopped her from using the turnbuckle again, which was kind of interesting, leading to that roll up, which led to the false finish. But as soon as she got her into the Black Widow, I thought she tapped out rather quickly. I don't know. She hasn't been in the company long, again, for the last 10 years at least, and all of a sudden she gets Becky, somebody who has had the ability to go through Ronda Rousey and Charlotte Flair, who are better known for their submission holds, and then taps out super quick to AJ, who hasn't been on the roster very consistently over the past decade plus. Not to take anything away from AJ, because she was fantastic in this match. I just think it was a little bit too soon to kind of pull that quick tap. I thought it could have been a little bit better in terms of drawing it out, letting the fans build it up a little bit. But yeah, other than that, it was not surprising that they went with AJ on this one. It'll be really interesting to see where they go with her on the road to WrestleMania, especially with all of the possible opponents that she has between now and then. You got people, like I mentioned before, Natty, You have somebody who you could be using an Ivy Nile. You have, I think, Chelsea Green. We pledge our allegiance to Chelsea around here, just the way that it is. Um, it would just be interesting to see where they go with this and who they kind of use to line up for AJ in between going back. I think she's going to go back to Becky at WrestleMania, but it'll be interesting to see who they use in between now and then. Next up was the men's World Heavyweight Championship match between CM Punk and Finn Balor. This one we really don't need to talk about too much. It was the obvious choice and the obvious outcome that we all expected. Punk winning it. We knew that was going to happen. They were never ever going to give up Roman versus Punk at Mania. That's obviously your night 2 main event. There's no way. There's just genuinely no way they were going to give that up. It was nice to see Balor actually holding his own and not wanting to use the Judgment Day until he just kind of seemed like he was going to signal them out and no one showed up. So I think that's where we're going to start to see the cracks in the foundation of the Judgment Day, where Dom might turn on Balor and we're going to get Balor versus Dom at WrestleMania for the Intercontinental Championship, which I'm not mad at either. I think that'd be a fantastic match. I think it was just rather interesting to see almost the de facto Balor face turn at the end, where it's just like, hey, we're going to shake on it here and then we're going to put this into the ground, and now he's going to go on to do something else. But I think what we're going to see is him on Raw tomorrow essentially just go up to his brethren in the Judgment Day and go, where the hell were you guys? It's going to be the biggest thing they talk about tomorrow night between him and them. And this is now where we get to have Punk properly build towards Roman. And at the end of the day, that's what everybody wanted to see in the first place. Other than that, that was kind of the most obvious outcome of the night. I really wasn't expecting too much from that match, but it was a pretty solid match overall. Let's now talk about the box. There were so many people hyping this up, wanting it to be Jericho, myself included. Obviously, it was not Jericho. It ended up being Danhausen. Now, for those who don't watch much of AEW, myself included, I do watch a lot of clip-style stuff from them, not so much full-on Collision or Dynamite. But from what I know about Danhausen, this could be really interesting. I don't want to sit here and say, the Danhausen debut is worse than the Shockmaster. Okay, let's not go that far just yet. Let's see what they do with it. Let's give it a chance, try it out, because at the end of the day, from what I understand about him, he's creepy but silly. People love R-Truth for the same reason. He's silly and doesn't make a whole lot of sense, and he should make a lot of sense, and he's childish, but we love it. It's really no different in the same way. I wouldn't even be mad at the fact if they had R-Truth and Danhausen team up and they join a ladder match at WrestleMania for one of the tag team titles, just as a fun add somebody into the mix. I wouldn't even be mad at that idea either. So I'm hoping that most of everybody doesn't get too discouraged by the fact that Danhausen is the debut went the way that it went. I really would hope that people are going to give this a chance and at least attempt to see what they do with it. Yeah, was it hyping up a box for the last 3 or 4 weeks? What's in the box? What's in the box? Sometimes in wrestling it isn't exactly what you want it to be, but that's okay. That's the best part about having things like 2K that comes out in a couple weeks. You can make your own story and let it be what you want it to be. This is the way that they went with it. We're going to see where they run with it. I'm going to leave it at that. Next, let's talk about the men's, almost said Money in the Bank again. Jeez. Men's Elimination Chamber match. Well, as expected, I did not get the spot that I was expecting to get between Javon Evans and Randy Orton. I thought it was going to happen when you saw Javon laying on top of that pod and Randy laying in the ring, but then he rolled out of the ring, and I was like, okay, I guess they're not going to hit that spot. And then more or less, he jumped off and ended up getting eliminated by Logan Paul. Logan Paul being the one to eliminate all 3 of the first eliminations in the match, insane idea. Not in a bad way. I just thought it was rather interesting to have him pull the trigger and have him eliminate that many guys. Other than the fact that Logan gets the match costed for him later on. I just thought it was rather interesting to have Trick and Evans have that NXT highlight in the middle of the match as well. They more or less were able to get a little bit of that reignition of their NXT feud. If I'm remembering correctly, I was there at NXT Heatwave in 2024, same weekend as Money in the Bank, where they had that fatal four-way and Ethan Page just kind of fell on top of, I think it was Javon Evans, or was it Trick Williams? I can't remember. But it was one of them that he fell on top of to win the NXT Championship. Yeah. And I thought that was a really interesting way to end a match as well. So, I mean, just to have them kind of reignite that little bit of a spark in this match kind of tells me they might want to do something towards WrestleMania for these guys. They're definitely not going to have them sitting somewhere waiting for something. I think by the time we see them next on Monday Night Raw, we're going to see what they're going to have WrestleMania going on. Well, what's going to go on for them anyway. Obviously, then we have Randy and LA Knight. Again, LA getting eliminated halfway through. We kind of knew that was coming. It wasn't going to be down to LA at all. And what it ended up kind of boiling down to was Orton and Rhodes, which was kind of the obvious two for the last one anyway. But before we get to the actual last two, how Paul gets eliminated. Finally, they revealed a masked man. And originally they had some guy climbing up the thing. Also, kudos to that security guard that grabbed the guy who was climbing the cage. Because as soon as he was up there, that security guard was up on top of him, yanking him back down. So that was really, really quick. So I thought that was kind of awesome. But then they left the door open after Trick was eliminated. You can see Trick kind of hobbling and laying on his side. Like, you can kind of see something's coming. But then as soon as that guy got kicked out, everyone was like, okay, well, is that it? Nope, make that way for the real masked man to actually go up the stairs, come through, and bang, we get the big reveal that it's none other than Seth Rollins. Not a surprise. Not a surprise. The main logical choice of that was Seth. And for lack of having options, just with all the injuries to the Vision, it sucks to see that they had to go that way and not get that storyline to its full potential. But at the same time, that's the world of wrestling, where injuries happen, people get hurt, and unfortunately, there's nothing we can really do about it. So it'll be interesting to see where they pull Logan Paul into, because again, we've already seen this match at WrestleMania 39 between Seth Rollins and Logan Paul. And while that was a super solid match, I have no complaints about that one. Do we want to see it again? Or do we want to see something a little different? Do we want to see, LA and Seth team up, even though they've had issues and problems that date back all the way to that Saturday night's main event where Seth faked that knee injury? Do we want to see them versus Austin Theory and Logan Paul, and then all of a sudden have Austin Theory more or less come out and show his true loyalty to Seth Rollins and be like, I remember the what was that group called, with Buddy Murphy and all them? I want to say it's like the Visionary or whatever it was during that Messiah time period around the pandemic era. It would have been really, really interesting to see how they kind of gelled that one together. If they decided just to go with a singles or in a tag team match, I'm not mad with either one. Just interested to see where they go with it. But yeah, then as soon as Logan Paul gets injured, we are now down to the last two, where it was Randy and Rhodes. The obvious two from the start that we were going to have as the final two in this match. In my opinion, it was kind of the way that they were aiming at the entire show. Then as that door is still open, that damn door staying open too long, but as soon as that door was open still, out comes Drew McIntyre, attacks Cody, costs Cody his opportunity, and ladies and gentlemen, we have Randy Orton returning to the main event scene for the first time in 12 years. It's a crazy sentence to even say that Randy is 12 years removed from the main event of WrestleMania. I'm personally interested to see where this goes, because I obviously want to see Randy get 15. Obviously, that would be awesome. But it's how they do it, because there's a lot of stories online that it would be interesting to pull, Cody into this match somehow. And as we know, at the post show, Nick was talking about how it's going to be Cody versus Drew because Drew got involved in this. Now Drew's got to defend his WWE Championship against Cody next week on SmackDown. So since that's happening anyway, they might just have a triple threat at the end of the day, which I'm also not mad at. But at the same time, what do you do with Jacob Fatu? Like, at the end of the day, I'm pretty sure it's Randy that attacked Jacob to take him out the first time because Drew said he didn't do it. And obviously, we're not going to just believe Drew McIntyre. But again, he wouldn't have any problem coming out and saying it, really. And it hasn't really seemed like he had no motive to do it. Where Randy would have been like, cool, you were with your cousins and stuff like that before, and I don't like the bloodline. Could have been something like that. That's Randy's motivation behind it. But I think it's also rather interesting that they had this fire between McIntyre and Aldis. There's also a possibility of that being a WrestleMania match. Not a terrible idea either. I would love to see Nick Aldis, formerly known as Magnus, inside a WWE ring, especially at WrestleMania. Having his debut at WrestleMania would be insane to think about. But I think it's just going to be rather interesting what they do next week on SmackDown when they get to that point of, are they going to pull the trigger and give it back to Cody? Or are they going to let Drew run with it and they're going to actually have Drew versus Orton and build it up another way? Or is it just going to be a one-on-one match? I'd personally be interested to see the Fatal 4-Way, because Fatal 4-Ways just add that extra little bit of chaos. And the last time we had a Fatal 4-Way match, if I'm not mistaken, for the WWE title at WrestleMania was WrestleMania 2000. McMahon in every corner, where it was all members of the McMahon family with Mick Foley, Triple H, The Rock, and The Big Show. And that was a fantastic match. No issues with that at all, as long as it's built with the right story and the right guys to do it, which I think they have. It can be a really, really fantastic match and a fantastic build along the road to WrestleMania. So at the end of it all, my predictions for the matches were 4 for 4. It's pretty good for the first time. Obviously, the Jericho thing, I would have loved to have it been Jericho, but again, that's not always the way that it works. And as much as we would love to have it be Jericho, there are other ways to bring him back. And with all the stuff that we know about AEW freezing his contract, if that rumor is to be believed, maybe that is just the way it's going to be for now. And if there is a time for Jericho to come back, maybe that's closer to SummerSlam. Maybe that's Monday Night Raw after WrestleMania. We'll have to wait and see. There you have it, guys. First review video in the books. Like I said, let me know what you guys think. Comments will be open, all that good stuff. I'll probably put up another poll next week. There are a couple polls up already on the community page. I did pre-order NBA. Wow. WWE 2K26 for the first time in a long time. Curious what you guys think, if I should do just rematch series or if I should be doing things like a universe mode. It's been a long time since I've done universe modes. The last really big modes I remember doing is like Road to WrestleMania and stuff like that for the SmackDown versus Raw series of games. So it'll be really interesting to try that out. But yeah, until next time, take care, do good. I'll hear from you soon.